Dear friends, the story I'm about to tell you today will send chills down your spine. As soon as the soil over the grave was removed, a cold, piercing scream echoed through the air. With trembling hands, Abdullah Malik peered inside and the sight before him sent a shiver down his spine. Wrapped around the corpse inside the shroud was a black serpent, coiled tightly. Its red eyes gleamed, as if it was guarding a dark secret. Abdullah Malik was an ordinary man, but fate had dragged him into an extraordinary situation. By profession, he was a grave digger. But what happened that night became the most horrifying secret of his life. It was a dark and desolate night, with an eerie chill in the air, like someone had touched the mysteries buried deep in the earth. Abdullah and his two companions, Rasheed and Kaleem, were digging up an old grave. It belonged to a man who had been buried decades ago, and legend had it that he was incredibly wealthy, with the treasure buried alongside him. Abdullah had always dismissed these tales as mere stories until that night, when a mysterious man everyone called Baba Sarmad appeared and said, "This grave is not ordinary. What lies within it is still alive." "What are you saying, Baba? How can a corpse be alive?" Abdullah laughed. But Baba Sarmad's face remained serious. "Some graves don't just bury bodies, Abdullah, they bury secrets. What you see won't just be a snaky or broken bar, it will be a curse." Ignoring the old man's warnings, Abdullah continued digging with his friends. As the shovel went deeper into the soil, the night grew more mysterious. Suddenly, as the final layer of dirt was removed, a cold scream echoed from inside the grave. Rasheed stepped back in fear, Kaleem dropped the shovel, and Abdullah's heartbeat quickened. There, inside the shroud, was a shiny black serpent coiled tightly. Its glowing red eyes stared directly at Abdullah, warning him of something terrifying if he dared to go further. Abdullah's breath caught. The snake's eyes were glowing like burning coals. It was wrapped around the body in the shroud, but what was strange was that the shroud wasn't rotting or filled with dirt, as if it had just been buried moments ago. "This isn't an ordinary snake," Rasheed said, stepping back. "Abdullah, we should leave." But Abdullah felt like his feet were glued to the ground. He remembered Baba Sarmad's words, "This snake is a curse." Suddenly, the snake began to move. It slowly raised its hood, as if it was about to speak. A strange rustling sound echoed from within the grave. Abdullah felt like something else was moving beneath the earth. Rasheed and Kaleem's faces turned pale. Abdullah gathered the courage to move forward, but as he reached out, the snake hissed furiously. And then, from within the grave, came a whispering voice, "Stop." Abdullah froze. His whole body trembled. How could a dead body speak? Suddenly, the shroud moved. Something inside it stirred. Just as Abdullah began to step back, the snake uncoiled itself and began slithering toward the edge of the grave, as if about to release something. Rasheed shouted, "This isn't an ordinary grave, Abdullah. This place is cursed." But Abdullah's eyes were fixed on the shroud. It was now not just moving, something inside was trying to get out. Suddenly, a hand emerged from inside the shroud, a black, shriveled hand with unnaturally long and dark fingernails. Abdullah's heart raced. Kaleem screamed and ran away, while Rasheed stood frozen. "What's happening? How can the dead move?" Abdullah stammered. Then, a head emerged from the shroud, dry, with faded hair still stained with dye. Abdullah's eyes widened in disbelief. The man thought to be dead was moving his lips. "Free me, broken bar." Abdullah stepped back, but just then, the snake lunged at him. Controlling his fear, Abdullah didn't retreat, he stepped forward. Rasheed grabbed his arm and shouted, "Don't do it, Abdullah. This goes against nature." But only one question kept repeating in Abdullah's mind. If he was dead, a broken bar, how is he moving? And why is the snake protecting him? The snake's glowing red eyes stayed fixed on Abdullah, as if warning that a single wrong move would lead to something horrifying. Still, Abdullah gathered his courage. Taking a deep breath, he placed his hand at the edge of the grave. The wrinkled hand inside the shroud was now struggling to fully emerge. Abdullah hesitated for a moment, then bent down and began pulling back the shroud. What lay underneath was unbelievable. Though the hair was dyed, the face wasn't completely decayed. It was dry, yes, but not rotting. The beard still had traces of red dye, and the eyes, a broken bar, were open, as if the man was still fully conscious. "This can't be broken bar," Abdullah muttered. Suddenly, The corpse's lips moved again. "Free me, broken bar," it whispered once more. Rasheed backed away, trembling. "He's a broken bar. This is the devil, Abdullah. Don't touch it." But as Abdullah moved closer again, the snake hissed louder and raised its hood higher. Its venomous eyes were filled with rage, ready to strike at any moment. Abdullah paused. If he opened the shroud further, he might uncover the grave's secret. But if the snake attacked, he could end up buried in the same grave. Summoning every ounce of courage, Abdullah pulled a knife from his pocket and fixed his gaze on the serpent. He knew broken bar, if he flinched, the snake would strike. Slowly, he moved forward, eyes locked with the snake's burning red glare. Abdullah slammed the stick on the ground. For a moment, the snake flinched. Abdullah took advantage of that very moment and thrust his knife into the ground near it. The snake let out a loud, shriek-like sound and swiftly slithered out of the grave, disappearing into the darkness. Now, only Abdullah, Rasheed, and that mysterious corpse remained. With trembling hands, Abdullah pulled off the shroud completely. As soon as the cloth was removed, both Abdullah and Rasheed were stunned. The chest of the dead body was moving, as if it were breathing. Rasheed's eyes almost popped out in fear. This is alive. But Abdullah had seen something more. Lying on the chest of the corpse was an ancient, glowing amulet. It wasn't made of gold or silver, but some strange metal, etched with mysterious markings. Abdullah slowly picked it up. The moment he touched it, he felt a jolt like electricity had passed through his hand. In that very moment, a whisper came from the corpse's lips. "Free me, broken bar, or you too will be buried with me." Suddenly, the ground around the grave began to tremble. Abdullah and Rasheed tried to step back in panic, but their feet began sinking into the soil. It felt as if the grave had come alive, pulling them in. Rasheed screamed, "Abdullah, drop the amulet. We have to run." Abdullah quickly placed the amulet back onto the corpse's chest. As soon as it returned to its place, the trembling earth stilled. The eerie whispers vanished, and the dead body went completely still again, as if nothing had ever happened. "This place is cursed," Rasheed said with a trembling voice. "We have to get out of here." Abdullah agreed. They both climbed out of the grave and ran toward the cemetery gates. As they stepped outside, Abdullah turned around for one last look. Something had changed. A new symbol had appeared on the gravestone, as of the exact same symbol that was etched on the amulet. It felt like the grave was trying to tell a story, a broken bar, but Abdullah wasn't ready to listen. He and Rasheed ran through the alleyways and finally reached their neighborhood. Fear was etched on their faces. As they approached their homes, Rasheed whispered, "Abdullah, ha, broken bar, do you think that thing is really gone?" Abdullah didn't reply. His hands were still trembling. A question echoed in his heart. If that corpse was really coming back to life via broken bar, could it rise again? Maybe this wasn't the end of broken bar, but the beginning of a new nightmare. That night, Abdullah couldn't sleep. He kept feeling like a shadow was coming and going in his room. Every time he opened his eyes, there was nothing there, but his heartbeat was racing uncontrollably. "It's all in my head," he tried to convince himself, but deep inside, he knew it wasn't over. The next night, Abdullah dreamed of the same grave, but this time, it was open, and the corpse broken bar was gone. He woke up with a jolt, drenched in sweat. He looked around. His room was dark, but he could hear a strange rustling sound, a broken bar like a snake slithering. "Rasheed, a broken bar?" Abdullah whispered, even though he knew Rasheed wasn't there. Suddenly, the curtains on the window fluttered, as if someone had brushed them aside with their hand. Abdullah's eyes widened in terror. In the corner of the room, a tall shadow began to form. As it stepped forward, Abdullah let out a scream. It was the same corpse, the same lifeless eyes, the pale white fascia, broken bar, and the same amulet, now hanging from its neck. "You disturbed my slumber," it whispered. Its voice was like the rustling of dry leaves. "Now, I will never let you sleep again." Abdullah's eyes began to close. His body went limp, as if some unseen force was dragging him into deep darkness. He tried to look toward the door one last time, but everything was fading into a blur. The next morning, Rasheed knocked on Abdullah's door. No answer. The door was slightly ajar. Rasheed stepped inside and reached the room. Abdullah was lying on his bed, eyes wide open, but he would never wake up again. And around his neck, a broken bar, hung the same amulet.